The studio lights were bright. Cameras were rolling. The audience was clapping. It was a big day for Karoline Leavitt. She was invited to speak on one of the most popular talk shows in the country. People were excited to hear her story. She had a calm smile on her face. Her eyes looked kind but strong. She wore a simple white dress and a very old small necklace around her neck. The host of the show, Daniel Brooks, was known for his jokes. He liked to make fun of guests. Some people laughed at his jokes. Some didn't. As Karoline sat down, Daniel looked at her necklace and smiled. "Karoline," he said loudly, "I have to ask, is that necklace from a garage sale? Or did your grandmother give it to you before time travel?" People in the audience laughed loudly. Karoline froze for a moment. Her hand touched the necklace gently. She smiled a little, but it was not a happy smile. It was quiet, deep. Her lips moved, but no sound came out at first. Daniel kept smiling, not noticing the change in her eyes. The show went on, but something had shifted. Behind the smile, people at home laughed too. Some shared clips online, writing, "What is that necklace? She looks like she came from 1980. The video spread fast. Within hours, it had over 1 million views. But Karoline did not reply. She did not post anything. She did not talk to the press. She simply stayed quiet. What no one knew was that the necklace was not just old. It was a piece of her heart, a memory that never fades. That night, Karoline sat in her small apartment alone. She held the necklace in her hand. Her fingers touched, every part of it. It had a small silver heart and a tiny name engraved, "Anna." Karoline whispered, "Hi, Mom." She closed her eyes and remembered a hospital room. She was just 10 years old. Her mother, Anna, was lying on a hospital bed, weak and pale. "Come here, baby," her mother had said in a soft voice. Little Karoline had sat beside her. Anna removed the necklace from her own neck and put it around Karoline's. "This will protect you," her mother had said. "Whenever you're scared, alone, or lost, hold this, and remember, I'm always with you." Karoline had cried that night. A few days later, her mother passed away. From that day, she never took the necklace off. Not just jewelry to others, it was just a piece of metal. To Karoline, it was her mother's voice, her strength, her past, and her present. She wore it to her first job interview. She wore it during her graduation. She wore it when she had nothing to eat but a slice of bread. Now, even though she was becoming famous, even though people said she needed to change her style, she still wore that same necklace. Because some things are not about fashion. Some things are about love. The pain of mockery, Karoline opened her phone again. She saw a comment. "She's rich now. Why is she still wearing that ugly necklace?" She stared at it for a long time. She thought of replying. She thought of explaining. But then she remembered her mother's last words. "Don't let the world make your heart small." She turned off her phone. But inside her, something was growing. It was not anger. It was strength. Behind the cameras, the next morning, Daniel Brooks and his team were laughing in the green room. "Did you see the comments?" "People loved that joke," one of the writers said. Daniel laughed. "Yeah, I mean, come on. That necklace was... wow. It looked like it came from a museum." Someone said, "She didn't even say anything back, just sat there like a statue." Daniel nodded. "Maybe she knows it's true." They didn't know that behind that silence was a storm. A visit to the past. Later that day, Karoline visited a quiet cemetery. She walked slowly. The sky was gray. She stopped at a small white stone. It read, "Anna Leavitt, loving mother, 1965. 2004, Karoline knelt down. She placed her hand on the cold stone. "Mom." "They laughed at your necklace," she whispered. "They laughed at your gift. They don't know what it means. But maybe it's time I tell them. Her eyes filled with tears, but she did not cry. She stood up slowly and looked at the sky. Not for revenge, she said softly, for you. Karoline Leavitt was only 10 years old when her life changed forever. Her world used to be small but full of love. She lived in a tiny house with her mother, Anna. They didn't have much money. The roof leaked when it rained. The heater was old and made strange noises in winter. But the house was filled with laughter, warm hugs, and soft music playing in the background. Her mother used to sing while cooking. "Sweet child of mine," she would hum, gently touching the silver necklace she always wore. That necklace was the only thing Anna never took off. Karoline once asked, "Why do you always wear that necklace, Mom?" Anna smiled and said, "Because it reminds me of what's important, and one day I'll give it to you." Karoline didn't understand then, but soon she would. The bad news, it started with a cough, a small one. Anna didn't think it was serious, but soon she grew weaker. She started missing work. Some days she couldn't even get out of bed. Karoline tried to help. She made soup, cleaned the house, and read her mother bedtime stories, even though she was the child. Then came the hospital visits, the long waits, the quiet whispers of nurses. The doctor finally sat down with Anna and Karoline. His face was serious. His words were slow. "I'm sorry. It's cancer, and it's spreading fast." Karoline didn't fully understand, but she saw her mother's eyes go quiet. That scared her more than the word cancer. The hospital days Anna had to stay at. The hospital more often. Karoline brought drawings, flowers, and sometimes jokes she made up herself. One evening, Anna was very tired. Her voice was soft. She looked at Karoline and said, "Come here, baby." Karoline sat close. Her mother took off the necklace and placed it around Karoline's neck. "This is for you now," she said. Karoline looked confused. "But Mom, you always wear this." Anna smiled weakly. "Now you will. This will protect you. It's not just a necklace. It's my love, my strength, my everything. And when I'm not here, it will remind you that I always am in your heart." Karoline cried that night, holding the necklace tight. 3 days later, Anna passed away in her sleep. Life without a mother. After the funeral, life was never the same. Karoline was sent to live with her aunt, who didn't care much for emotions or memories. She was cold, strict, and didn't like silly feelings. "Take that necklace off," her aunt once said. "It looks cheap." But Karoline refused. She wore it every day. It became her shield, her secret strength. Every time she missed her mother, she held it. Every time she cried at night, she whispered, "I miss you, Mom." Years passed. Karoline grew up. She studied hard, worked harder, and never forgot her mother's words. The necklace stayed with her through it all. Her first big moment at 21, Karoline got a chance to speak at a youth leadership event. It was her first time standing in front of a large crowd. She wore a new dress, new shoes, but the same old necklace. After her speech, a woman came up to her and asked, "Why that necklace? It doesn't match." Karoline smiled and said, "It's not for style, it's for soul." She never explained more. She kept the story inside her heart. Until now. Back to the present. After the TV show, after the joke, after the laughter, Karoline sat in her room and looked at the necklace again. Her fingers touched the little silver heart. It was old now. The shine had faded. The chain had tiny bends in it, but it was still strong, just like her. She thought about everything. The hospital, her mother's smile, the tears, the love, the gift. The world had laughed. But the world didn't know the truth. Not yet. The inner decision Karoline stood up and looked in the mirror. "I've stayed silent long enough," she whispered. She picked up a pen and started writing. The words came like a flood. Every memory, every tear, every lesson her mother gave her. She didn't write with anger. She wrote with love. Because this story wasn't about revenge, it was about respect. The next morning, Karoline Leavitt woke up to a storm. Not of weather, but of noise. Her phone kept buzzing, messages, missed calls, hundreds of notifications. Clips from last night's talk show were everywhere. People were laughing, commenting, sharing. The part where Daniel Brooks joked about her necklace was all over social media. Some said, "She just sat there. Is she always this boring? That necklace looks like it came from a toy store." LOL. What was she thinking? Karoline read the comments in silence. Her heart beat slowly. She didn't cry, but her chest felt heavy. The necklace that meant the world to her was now a joke. Behind her smile, Karoline didn't post anything. She didn't reply to messages. She didn't talk to anyone. She sat on her bed, holding the necklace between her fingers. She whispered, "They don't know. They just don't know." She looked out the window. The sky was clear. The sun was shining. But inside her, everything felt dark. Still, she didn't break. Not yet. Media starts talking, news channels and blogs started writing about the moment. One headline read, "Daniel Brooks roasts guest necklace live. She doesn't say a word." Another said, "Who is Karoline Leavitt, and what's up with that necklace?" Karoline's silence became a topic on its own. People began arguing online. Some defended her. Maybe it's important to her. You don't mock someone's personal things on national TV. Others didn't care. Daniel Brooks himself posted a short video laughing, "Guys, relax. It was just a joke. Come on. It's a necklace, not a secret weapon." He smiled. The audience laughed, but not everyone was smiling. A friend speaks later that day. Karoline's old college friend, Melissa, called her. "Hey, are you okay?" she asked gently. Karoline waited a few seconds. "I'm fine." "You don't sound fine," Melissa said. "Listen, you don't have to stay quiet. If you want to talk about the necklace, tell your story. People will understand." Karoline looked at the necklace again. "I don't want to explain myself to people who laugh before they listen," she said softly. "But maybe," she added, "it's time the right people hear the truth." Daniel's point of view at the studio. Daniel Brooks was celebrating. Ratings had gone up. His team was happy. "That clip blew up," said one producer. "Everyone's watching it." Daniel grinned. "Told you I still got it. People love a good laugh." Someone asked, "Think she's upset?" Daniel shrugged. "Who knows? If she can't take a joke, she shouldn't be on live TV." They all laughed again. They didn't know what was coming. A quiet day. A loud thought, Karoline spent the whole day alone. She didn't eat much. She didn't watch TV. She just sat at her desk and stared at a blank notebook. Finally, she wrote 5 words at the top of the page. "This is not just jewelry." From there, she kept writing, page after page. It wasn't just about the necklace. It was about memory, pain, loss, strength, silence, and love. She was pouring her heart out. For her mother, for herself, for every person who had ever been mocked, for being different. By evening, she had written a speech. A decision is made. Karoline's phone rang again. It was her manager. "You should say something, Karoline. You've been quiet too long." "I know," she replied. "I got a call from the show. They want you back for a follow-up." Karoline didn't speak right away. "Are you ready?" her manager asked. Karoline looked at her mother's necklace, then smiled. "I'm more than ready." The world waits news broke quickly. "Karoline, Leavitt returns to Daniel Brooks' show this Friday." People were surprised. Some were curious. Some were excited. Everyone wanted to know what she would say. Some thought she would stay silent again, but they were wrong. Because this time, Karoline had something to say. The city lights were bright, but Karoline's apartment was quiet. No music. No TV. Just the soft ticking of a small wall clock. She sat at her desk with the speech in her hand. Her fingers touched the necklace, slowly, as if it might break. But it was strong, just like the words she had written. The world was waiting to hear her speak. But Karoline wasn't thinking about the world. She was thinking about her mother, whispers from the past. That night, Karoline dreamed of the hospital again. Her mother's voice came back to her, soft and clear. Don't let the world change who you are. Don't trade your truth for their applause. Karoline woke up with tears on her pillow. She wasn't scared. She wasn't angry. She was steady, like the calm before a storm. No posts, no comments, just silence. For 3 days, Karoline didn't post anything online. No tweets. No videos, no replies. People started talking again. She's going back on the show. Maybe she's going to apologize. Maybe she'll finally tell us why she wears that ugly necklace. What if she stays silent again? Even Daniel. Brooks made a short video saying, "Don't worry, folks, she'll be back. And I promise not to joke about jewelry this time, unless it's made of Legos." More laughs. More likes. But Karoline said nothing. Her silence became louder than any words. The graveyard visit one morning. Karoline dressed in black and left home. She took a taxi to a small, quiet graveyard outside the city. She walked slowly, holding a white flower in one hand and her speech in the other. She found her mother's grave, the same spot she had visited many times before. She knelt down and whispered, "Hi, Mom. I'm going to tell them. I'm going to tell the world who you were, who I am, and why your gift matters." She placed the flower beside the stone. Then softly she added, "But not with anger, with truth." Daniel Brooks. Prepares at the studio. Daniel Brooks was getting ready for the big night. His producer asked, "Should we avoid any jokes this time?" Daniel rolled his eyes. "It's just a necklace. If she wants to be emotional about it, fine. But I'm not the villain here." The producer shrugged. "The network says we need this to go smoothly." Daniel nodded. "No problem. She gets her moment, I get my ratings, everybody wins." He didn't know that the moment would change everything. Backstage tension Friday night came. Karoline arrived early. She wore a plain navy dress, her hair tied back neatly, and of course, the same silver necklace around her neck. Backstage, a young intern walked up to her. "Miss Leavitt, I just want to say, my mom gave me a necklace too. I wear it every day." Karoline smiled softly. "Then keep it close. It means more than most people will ever understand." The intern nodded, eyes wide with respect. Karoline turned toward the stage entrance. It was time, the calm before her voice. The show began. The audience clapped. The lights came on. Daniel smiled for the cameras. "Welcome back, everyone. Tonight, we have a special guest returning, Karoline Leavitt." Applause. Karoline walked onto the stage, calm and graceful. She sat down without looking nervous. Daniel looked at her and said, "Karoline, thank you for coming back. There's been a lot of talk about last week's show. Would you like to say something?" Karoline took a deep breath. Her hand touched the necklace once, then she looked into the camera. She begins to speak. "When I was 10 years old," she began slowly, "my mother gave me this necklace. She was in the hospital, fighting cancer. She knew she didn't have much time left." The audience went silent. Karoline continued, her voice clear but gentle. She took it off her neck and put it around mine. She said, "This will protect you. When I'm gone, it will remind you that I'm still with you." Daniel shifted in his seat. His smile faded. The room grows silent. "This necklace is not a fashion choice," she said. It's not a joke. It's a piece of my heart." She turned to Daniel. "Last week you laughed at it. Millions laughed with you. And I stayed silent. Not because I was weak, but because some things are too sacred to defend in anger." The room was still. Cameras kept rolling, but no one moved. Truth without blame. "I'm not here to shame anyone," Karoline said. "We all make mistakes. We all laugh at what we don't understand." She looked back at the audience. "But let this moment remind us that the thing we mock might be someone's most precious memory." People in the crowd had tears in their eyes. Even Daniel Brooks lowered his head. Karoline ended with one final line. "I carry my mother with me not just in memory but in this necklace, and I will wear it for the rest of my life." When Karoline finished her words on live TV, the studio was silent. No one clapped. No one moved. Even Daniel Brooks, the man who had made the cruel joke, sat quietly with his head down. Something heavy had filled the room. Not anger, not shame, but truth. And the truth has a way of making people listen. The first tier Karoline sat still, her hands folded in her lap, the silver necklace shining under the lights. In the front row, an older woman wiped a tear from her eye. Next to her, a young man lowered his phone and simply whispered, "Wow." It wasn't just a story. It was something deeper. It reminded people of someone they had lost, someone they still missed. Daniel's apology, Daniel Brooks, finally cleared his throat. He looked at Karoline with eyes that weren't joking anymore. "Karoline," he said quietly, I didn't know." "I believe you," she replied gently. He looked down. "I'm sorry, truly. I made a joke without thinking. I never meant to hurt you." Karoline gave a soft smile. "The world is full of noise. Sometimes silence speaks louder." Daniel nodded. "You reminded me of that tonight." For the first time in a long while, he wasn't the star of the show. The audience responds. Then the room did something unexpected. One by one, people began to stand. They didn't cheer loudly, they just stood, in respect. No big claps, no wild applause, just people, rising to show they understood. Karoline stood too. Not because she needed the spotlight, but because she had finally let her mother's voice be heard, through her own. Online reaction, a wave of emotion as. Soon as the show ended, clips of Karoline's speech began spreading online, but this time the comments were different. "I cried watching this. I haven't cried in years. I never knew a necklace could hold that much meaning. I'm so sorry I laughed last week. Now I understand." Some shared their own stories. "My dad gave me a keychain before he died. I never take it off. My mom's scarf still smells like her. I keep it in my bag." People weren't just watching anymore. They were feeling. Karoline's inbox floods that night. Karoline's phone filled with messages again. But this time, it was not hate. It was love. Letters from strangers, notes from mothers, messages from people who had never spoken about their grief until now. One message stood out. "You didn't just wear a necklace. You carried your mother's love. And tonight, you shared it with the world. Thank you." Karoline held her phone close and smiled softly. Her silence had turned into something powerful. Daniel faces. The public Daniel Brooks also felt the storm of emotions online. Some people were still angry with him, but many said, "He listened. He apologized. That's what matters." Daniel released a new video on his social media. No jokes this time, no background music, just him. "I've been in the media for 20 years, he said, "and I've never been silenced the way Karoline silenced me, with grace." He paused, then added, "Sometimes the real power isn't in being the loudest voice, but the most honest one." News channels shift the story. The next morning, news outlets had new headlines. The necklace that touched the world. Karoline Leavitt teaches a lesson in grace. From mockery to meaning, the story behind the silver heart. Even newspapers that had once called her boring now praised her strength. She didn't fight with words. She fought with truth, one article wrote. Karoline's picture appeared everywhere, with the necklace shining softly on her chest. Back to the grave. A few days later, Karoline visited her mother's grave again. This time, she brought a different flower, bright and full of color. "I did it, Mom," she whispered. "They listened. They know now." She sat beside the grave for a while, holding the necklace in her hand. Not because she needed comfort, but because she wanted to say, "Thank you." Letters from around the world. Soon, Karoline started receiving packages, letters, handmade gifts, photos. People from different countries sent her tokens of love. One child from Japan sent her a tiny paper bird with the message, "This bird carries your mother's love to the skies." A woman from Brazil wrote, "My son died last year. I wear his watch. Now I'm proud to show it thanks to you." Karoline read every word. She kept every item. Each one was a new piece of hope. Karoline Leavitt didn't expect her life to change, but after her quiet speech on TV, the world saw her differently. She wasn't just a guest who sat silently. She was a voice, one that reminded people to look deeper. One necklace had opened millions of hearts, a flood of letters. Every morning, Karoline's mailbox was full. Letters came from strangers around the world. Many started the same way. "You don't know me, but..." Some letters were short, some were long, but everyone carried pain, love, and memory. One man wrote, "I lost my daughter 5 years ago. She gave me a small toy before she died. I keep it in my coat pocket. For years I was embarrassed, but now I hold it proudly." Another wrote, "My father died in war. I wear his dog tag. People think it's just a piece of metal, but to me, it's his heartbeat." Karoline read every letter with care. She cried. She smiled. She felt less alone. A new idea is born one night. Karoline sat by her window with a warm cup of tea. She looked at the pile of letters on her desk and thought, "These stories matter. Not just mine. Theirs too." She opened her laptop and wrote a post. "If you carry something that holds meaning, an old watch, a scarf, a photo, a key, share your story with me. The world needs to hear it." She added a new hashtag, "What I carry, then." She clicked post. Stories begin to pour. Within hours, hundreds of people replied. A teacher shared a photo of her mother's ring. A young man posted a picture of his brother's shoes. A little girl, only 9 years old, shared a teddy bear and wrote, "My daddy gave me this before he went to heaven." Karoline reposted them all, one by one. She didn't just read them, she honored them. Each post was a reminder. Everyone carries something unseen, a show with no stage. Karoline didn't go back to big talk shows. She didn't want loud lights or fast interviews. She started her own small online show called What I Carry. No makeup, no fancy background, just a soft chair, warm lighting, and stories. She invited regular people, nurses, students, old veterans, kids. They came and sat beside her, holding their special object. They told their story, and the world listened. An old man's story one guest was a man named Mr. Ellis. He was 82. He walked slowly, with a cane, and held a folded handkerchief. Karoline asked gently, "Would you like to share what you carry?" He nodded. He said, "This belonged to my wife. She passed away 20 years ago. She always kept it in her purse." He smiled faintly. "It still smells like her perfume." Karoline didn't speak. She just held his hand. That moment was shared by millions online. No background music. No drama. Just real human love. A child's silent gift. Another episode featured a shy boy named Liam. He was only 7. He came with his mother and carried a small rock. Karoline smiled and asked, "Is that your treasure?" Liam nodded. His mother explained softly, "His sister died last year. They used to collect rocks together." Karoline turned to Liam. "What do you think she'd say if she saw you carry it?" Liam looked up and whispered, "She'd say, 'I remember.'" That clip touched the hearts of millions. People began sending in their own photos of memory rocks. Daniel. Brooks watches in silence far away. Daniel Brooks watched Karoline's show. He didn't post about it. He didn't say anything, but he watched every episode. One evening, he sent a private message. It read, "Karoline, thank you. You reminded me what it means to listen. Really listen." Karoline read it, then closed her phone quietly. She didn't need to reply. Some messages only need to be felt. More than a necklace. Karoline's necklace was still around her neck every day, but now it was more than a symbol of her mother. It was a doorway to thousands of other stories. Every object, every photo, every letter, all of it told the same truth. Love doesn't end. It just takes a new form. A wall of memories, Karoline soon built a small room in her home. Inside, she placed shelves and soft lights. She hung photos, letters, and small items from guests. It was not a museum. It was a room of quiet love. She called it the heart wall. When she missed her mother, she sat inside. She didn't feel alone. The room whispered stories to her, and each one whispered back, "You're not alone either." The world knew Karoline Leavitt as the woman with the necklace, the one who spoke without shouting, the one who listened. Her show What I Carry had grown, but it was still simple, still quiet, still powerful. Every week someone new shared their object and the story behind it. But one day, Karoline received a letter that changed everything. It was different. No return address, no name, just a small old envelope, and her name written in soft blue ink. A letter from the past. Karoline opened it slowly. Inside was a single sheet of paper. The handwriting was neat but shaky. It said, "Dear Karoline, you don't know me, but I knew your mother. We were in the hospital together many years ago. She used to talk about you all the time. She was scared, but brave. One night when she couldn't sleep, she held the necklace in her hand and whispered, 'This will be my voice when I'm gone.' She gave it power. You gave it meaning. Thank you for honoring her so well. A friend she never forgot." Karoline read the letter again and again. Her heart beat faster. A stranger had seen her mother in her final days and remembered her. Tears rolled down Karoline's cheeks. She held the paper close to her chest. It felt like a message from the past, a message that had waited patiently to arrive. Searching for the writer. For the first time in months, Karoline made a video not for the show, but for herself. She looked into the camera and said, "Someone sent me a letter. They knew my mother. I don't know who you are, but if you see this, thank you. You brought her back to me in a way I didn't expect." She ended with a quiet smile and a whisper, "Please reach out again if you can." Millions watched, and thousands offered to help find the writer, but no one knew who it was. The necklace feels heavier. That night, Karoline couldn't sleep. She sat by her window holding the necklace in her hand. It felt heavier than before, not because of sadness, but because of all the stories it had carried, and now this new one. A secret friend of her mother was added to its chain. She whispered, "Whoever you are, thank you for loving her." Then she closed her eyes and let the memory wrap around her like a soft blanket. Unexpected visitor. A week later, during a quiet afternoon, Karoline heard the doorbell ring. She opened it and found a young woman standing there. She looked nervous. She held a small brown envelope. "Are you Karoline?" the girl asked. "Yes," Karoline replied gently. "My grandmother wrote you that letter. She passed away 3 days ago." Karoline's eyes widened. The girl continued. "Before she died, she made me promise I'd deliver this. She said you'd understand." The girl handed her the envelope and said, "She wanted you to have this." Then she walked away. Karoline stood in the doorway, the envelope trembling in her hands. Months passed since Karoline received the final letter, but the feeling never faded. The photo of her mother and the kind stranger now sat in a simple white frame on her desk. Every morning, Karoline would look at it, touch her necklace, and smile. The sadness was still there, but so was peace. Her mother was not gone. She was everywhere now, a message. That grew Karoline's small show. What I carry had grown into something much bigger, not in fame, but in meaning. People from around the world continued sending stories. Children, grandparents, soldiers, nurses, every kind of person had something they carried. A wedding. Ring from a lost spouse. A photo from a forgotten time. A song they still sang in the kitchen. A jacket that still smelled like Dad. They weren't just objects. They were stories, memories, love made real. A classroom in silence. One day, a teacher from a small town wrote to Karoline. She said, "We watched your videos in class, my students, ages 10 to 14. Each brought something that reminds them of someone they love. We sat in a circle. No one laughed. No one interrupted. We just listened." She ended the letter with, "You didn't just help grown-ups heal. You taught children to feel." Karoline placed that letter beside her mother's photo. Because it mattered. The quiet gift Karoline never asked for money, never wanted fame. But people began donating, not to her, but to the message. Soon, a small foundation was born. The Silent Story Project. Its goal, to send free kits to schools, hospitals, and care homes, kits that helped people share the objects they carried and the stories behind them. Each kit had a soft notebook, a pen, a small cloth pouch to hold a memory, a gentle card that said, "What you carry matters." One more visit to the grave on. A cool spring morning, Karoline visited her mother's grave again. She brought flowers, she brought the photo, she brought the letter. But she also brought something else, a small wooden box. Inside it were hundreds of tiny papers, each one carrying a short story sent from someone around the world. Karoline placed the box gently at the headstone. She whispered, "Mom, your voice became many." Then she sat quietly. No tears, just warmth. A young girl watches far away, in a village where no one knew Karoline personally. A little girl watched one of her videos on a tablet. She turned to her grandmother and said, "I want to keep Grandpa's old cap. Is that okay?" The grandmother nodded with a soft smile. "It's more than okay, sweetie. That cap holds his story." The girl hugged it tightly, because she now understood love stays, in things, in silence, in stories. The last episode 1 year. After the first necklace moment on TV, Karoline recorded one final video. She sat in her usual chair. The silver heart necklace rested quietly around her neck. Her voice was soft but steady. "Thank you," she said, "for listening, for feeling, for remembering that every person carries something important. You don't need a stage to tell your story. You just need someone to listen. And now, it's your turn." She smiled and ended the video with a final whisper, "Carry it with love." The story never ends. Karoline stopped making weekly videos, but her message kept traveling. People still shared, still listened, still felt, in homes, in hospitals, in classrooms, in hearts, and in quiet rooms where someone sat alone with a photo or a ring or a scarf. They whispered their own story to the silence, and the silence whispered back, "It matters."